No, I haven't been to Africa in the last 6 months. I've never been to Africa. No matter how many times the doctor asks me, my answer is the same. This question kind of frightens me and also puzzles me. Does anyone forget going to Africa? Back in 2005, well, maybe the doctor thought the fever was clouding my memory. Back in 2005, I came home from work one Friday night not feeling very well. I felt overtired and kind of too warm, the way I do right before the bad symptoms of a cold come on. I figured if I went to bed early, maybe I'd be okay the next day. Saturday morning comes and I have volunteer work to do. I feel even worse than I did the night before, but if I bail on the volunteering, then I'm leaving my wife Mary to deliver heavy bags of groceries all by herself. So I get dressed, and when I'm getting dressed, I notice that the skin on my wrists is really red and blotchy. Mary doesn't like this because she knows the combination of a fever and a rash is a bad sign. We go do the volunteering anyway and a few other errands, and I'm feeling worse and worse the whole day. Eventually I decide I just need to go back to bed. When I'm getting into my pajamas, I notice that now the rash is all the way up my arms. About 7:30 that night, I have a fever of 103 degrees, the rash has completely covered my chest and back, and I'm having trouble standing up for more than a minute or two. By 8 o'clock, Mary's had enough, and we're on our way to the Inova Emergency Center in Reston. We get there and sit and wait in the waiting room for hours. I am miserable. The Advil I'd taken earlier is not helping. I am miserable with chills and fever. I just want to go home, but Mary is convinced I must see a doctor. Eventually, they call us back, and I see a nurse and then a doctor, who's a very pleasant woman in her late 40s, and she hears my symptoms and starts to look at the rash and starts asking me a bunch of odd questions. Have you been hunting recently? Have you been to Africa? Have you done much traveling? Have you been exposed to any deer or other large game animals? These are kind of weird questions. I don't really know how to respond to this, but no is the answer to all these questions. She seems a little perplexed. And then she leaves and sends the nurse in to draw some blood to do some tests. Mary can see that the doctor is in another room on a computer, and she can see that she's looking up articles on the internet. I don't know if you've ever had a doctor tell you not to worry and then rush off to Google your symptoms. It's not comforting. She comes back about 20 minutes later, and there's another round of questions. Have you been hunting? Have you been to Africa? Have you been to the Rocky Mountains? Maybe somewhere in the South? No. The most exotic place I've been is Taco Bell. Mary is getting really freaked out. Like the combination of my symptoms, the rash covering half my body, the doctor Googling stuff, she can't take it. She asks, what do you think he has? The doctor does not know. She says, well, it might be some kind of tick-borne illness. I'm thinking maybe Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but that's really very rare around here. So I'm gonna order some more tests. I don't really think it's scarlet fever, but the strep test I ordered will check for that too. And she gets ready to send us home. She tells me, take a bunch of Advil to keep my fever under control, and then she has some more instructions for Mary. She says, if his fever goes to 104, or if the rash changes, if it looks like there's blood spots under the skin, go to the hospital right away. Not Reston, go to Fairfax Hospital. They have the best infectious disease specialists there. Well, shit, that is a scary piece of advice. So we pack up and go home. By this time it's about 11:30 at night on Saturday. I go to sleep right away. The next morning I wake up, I'm feeling worse. All of Sunday I have 102-degree fever, and then Sunday night, Mary notices that my rash looks different. There are dark spots in the middle of all the bumps. In a panic, she insists that I get dressed and we have to go to the hospital immediately. I don't want to go. I don't really want to believe anything is seriously wrong with me, all I really want to do is lay in bed with my eyes closed and be left alone. But she's not having it, and she somehow gets me in the car and we go to the hospital. We get to the ER, and we're waiting in the waiting room, and I'm waiting inside and Mary goes outside. She didn't tell me, I didn't know because she didn't want to show me her fear, but she goes outside to cry. She's gone outside to call my parents and my best friends because she's worried that she's going to become a widow, not even having been married a year. Back inside, a nurse calls my name and calls me back to the exam area. And while we're walking, I tell her about the fever and the rash, and she reaches for my arm to take a look, and then she does this. And she says, "We're going to let the doctor examine you. Follow me this way." And she takes us back to a big empty room and puts us in there and says, "Just in case you're contagious, I'm going to give you a private room." And she closes the door behind her as fast as she can. Well, I've seen Outbreak. What do they think I have? Ebola? Is Dustin Hoffman going to march in a plastic suit and start ordering the nurses around? I don't want to be quarantined. I don't want to be in the New England Journal of Medicine, and I definitely don't want to have a disease named after me. Eventually, the doctor at Fairfax Hospital comes in, and he examines me, and his conclusion is also, I don't know. He dismisses the idea of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, although we do find out later that the change the doctor was talking about is what happens if you have Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and it gets really bad to the point where the bacteria is breaking down your blood vessels and you're about to lose limbs or die. But apparently that's not what I have. The doctor doesn't know. He laughs when we ask about Ebola or hemorrhagic fevers, and he sends us home. He says he's going to order some more tests and he'll know the results in a couple days. So we go home, and for the next couple of days, Mary is too scared to sleep in the bed next to me. And I don't really want her there either, because I am so weak from the fever, I can barely stand up. I definitely couldn't drive. If she gets sick the same way as me, we're screwed. We're so worried I'm contagious that we won't let my parents or any of my friends visit either. So a couple days later, the doctor calls, and all the test results are negative. They show nothing, no idea what's wrong. He refers me to a doctor in Fairfax to go for a follow-up. I go there later in the week, and I get a full exam from this doctor, who also can tell me nothing. He actually can tell me that I'm in excellent health, other than my mystery fever and rash. I continued to run a high fever for 2.5 weeks. And being sick gets kind of routine. I ate Advil like it was candy. I ate a lot of soup. I drank a lot of juice. I think I watched all the DVDs we own 2 or 3 times. Somewhere in there it became obvious I'm not actually going to die, but I really wanted to stop being sick. To this day, I have no idea what I had back in 2005. No one I know ever had anything like it or heard of anyone being sick the same way. The only thing that I know for sure that I got that year was a $5,000 hospital bill, which is a shame, because for that much money, I could have gone to Africa.